The line between online and off is getting blurrier all the time. There's so much data about everyone floating around out there that even crimes are being solved just by looking at someone's online presence. Now, we know most of you, like us, are just regular law-abiding citizens who don't want their information plastered all over the internet for anyone and everyone to find, which is why we're so thankful to the sponsor of today's video, Kaspersky Privacy Checker. Kaspersky Privacy Checker is the absolute best tool for taking back control over who sees your information online and protects you from becoming a victim through oversharing on social media. We've all seen the news stories about celebrities who were hacked through their social media. These hacks and leaks can be devastating and career-ruining, but could have been avoided if they treated checking their data's privacy settings as a regular habit, like brushing your teeth. Kaspersky Privacy Checker is exactly that, an easy-to-use tool that should become a part of your regular routine. It doesn't matter if I'm signing into Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, I'm always checking to make sure I have the tightest possible privacy level enabled so I can stay safe and worry-free. I strongly recommend that you go to the Kaspersky Privacy Checker website to do the same right now, since once your data is leaked, there's nothing you can do about it. It works on all the major social networks, any hardware including PC, Mac, and mobile, and best of all, it's totally free. So go follow the link in the description to learn more from Kaspersky on how to keep your personal information to yourself. Lives have been saved, mysteries have been unraveled. Cold-blooded killers have leaked information and gotten themselves caught. As you'll see today, it's remarkable, horrifying, and sometimes funny how many crimes have been solved by online sleuths. Let's begin with something light that we'll put in the funny folder. It all started when cops in Detroit said they were shutting down 6 Mile Road for Angels Night. That's the night volunteers patrol the city, a response to the mayhem of the Devil's Night in years past. Anyway, when that announcement hit the department's Facebook page, one particular poster with the name Champaign Torino wasn't very happy. He wrote on that page, "Shut down that street and you are getting shut down." Okay, a troll, just another big man hiding behind a fake name. But then when he started saying, "Come Halloween, I'm gonna put something nasty in the kids' candies," the cops looked a bit deeper into Torino's character. Let's just say that Mr. Torino wasn't the brightest kid on the block, and in no time at all, the police found out he was named Michael Zadel. What's more, the 21-year-old had an outstanding warrant for DUI and also assault and battery. The cops got in touch with him on Facebook, after which Zadel offered them a deal that was hard to refuse. He said, "Okay, you got me, but if you want me to hand myself in, I'll do it on the condition you get one of your posts shared 1,000 times. What's more," he said, "I'll come into the station loaded with donuts for you." The department posted a picture and asked people to share it with added information about the challenge. It went viral, and we mean globally. Soon after, Zadel walked into the station with a bag of glazed donuts. Crime solved, he got 39 days in jail. Okay, this one isn't funny at all, but it has a nice ending. In 1995, 2 young men in Virginia were out driving when they crashed. Both men died. The driver, a 21-year-old named Michael Hager, had fallen asleep and the car hit a tree. But what about the other guy? Who was he? The police didn't know, and they still didn't know after investigating. One thing they did know was that he was a Grateful Dead fan. He had 2 tickets in his pocket for one of their gigs, and he was wearing one of their t-shirts. He was also wearing Levi's and Fila running shoes. Cops found a note and it read, "Jason, sorry we had to go. See you around. Call me at 914XXX, Caroline T and Caroline O. Bye." That number had no area code and led to no great discovery. Police did manage to find where the tickets had been bought, but it turned out the seller was just a scalper. He couldn't remember selling the tickets. Police also knew that the dead man was about 20 years old with long brown curly hair. He had 2 tattoos that looked like they'd been scribbled rather than done by a professional, and his teeth were in tip-top shape. Still, with all this information, they just couldn't get a name. Hager, it turned out, had likely picked up that mystery man while he was hitchhiking. Hager's family said they knew nothing about a guy that fit the description. The police named him Jason Doe. It was a confounding mystery that really shouldn't have been. Some young man had just disappeared and not one person came forward and said anything. One thing the police did was create an image of what the guy likely looked like, also wearing that tie-dyed Grateful Dead t-shirt. They posted it on the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children database. Years passed and nothing happened. Then an Australian Reddit user who was into unsolved mysteries read the case. She decided to start the thread Grateful Doe and posted the reconstructed image and information about him. One day, she looked in her inbox and found a message from a guy named Steve. He said, "I think I know that guy. His name is Jason Callahan. I used to share a room with him." Not long after, Jason Callahan's half-sister was found with the help of Redditors. And you have to remember, this was 20 years after the accident, so she hadn't known Jason. But she said this later, "When I looked at the picture, it looked like my dad was looking back at me. He had the same face, and he even had a lot of my facial features, my forehead and the shape of my face. I knew in that moment deep down who that was." DNA tests proved it was him. Jason had been found, and it turned out he told his family those many years ago that he was leaving home and going to follow the Grateful Dead around America. His mother hadn't filed a missing persons report, but she did after she saw those Reddit posts. This next one is equally sad, but again, there's some light in the darkness. This is the story of a woman who lived in a small town called Eatonville in Pierce County, Washington. Her name was Susan Rainwater, and she was married to Al, a very devoted husband. They might have been getting on in years, but they kept fit, often walking together while holding hands. One morning, Susan got up, made some coffee. She brought a cup to her sleeping husband as usual and told him that she'd be back in a bit after she finished her morning bicycle ride. She never returned. After 30 years of marriage, Al never saw her alive again. When he did see her next time, it was when he went looking for her. She was dead in a ditch. It was a hit and run, or it seemed like one. Al later said, "I was always worried about her and she was always worried about me." No one had seen the accident. But then a forward-thinking state trooper, Robert Rayer, took to Twitter. He posted a picture of the mangled bike, and he also posted a tiny bit of black material that had presumably come off the car. To most people, that bit of material could have been anything, but avid car enthusiasts are not most people. Responses came back, such as likely trim from a pop-up headlight or an old 80s truck headlight. Then someone said 1983 to 84 Chevy Silverado headlamp bezel. Sometime later, someone posted the image on Reddit under r/whatisthisthing. The user Jeff's Nuts didn't waste any time in replying. He knew his stuff. He said what he saw was a part of the headlight bezel from a late 1980s Chevrolet CK pickup. In 2018, there weren't too many of those around anymore. He even talked about a certain notch that was peculiar to that one exact model. He then went back to watching football on TV. He said it was actually totally random that he even answered the question about the image. He just happened to see it and had no idea about the terrible crime. That same trooper got back on Reddit a few days later, and his message was this: "Detectives made an arrest today for Thursday's fatal bicyclist hit and run in Eatonville. Reddit users identified a photographed broken car part as a mid-1980s Chevy truck headlight assembly." The guy said he had fallen asleep at the wheel, although judging by the heroin in his possession when he was caught, maybe he'd gouged out. He said he knew he hit someone but didn't want to see a body. He was charged with vehicular homicide. When the victim's daughter spoke to the press, she said she didn't deserve to be left on the side of the road with no one to help her, because all she ever did was help other people. As sad as it was, in a kind of way she was helped too after her death. On a positive note, this is what someone wrote below the trooper's post: "Look at the internet today, being all useful and everything. As you'll see now, the internet can also get you in trouble." This is a very short story. You can call it a cautionary tale, or perhaps a modern-day parable. There was a man, a Florida man, and his name was Johnson. He was just 19. Mr. Johnson thought it was a good idea to post photos of himself on Instagram holding guns in his hands. There's nothing wrong with that, of course, but if you've draped yourself in gold and you're sometimes holding wads of cash, well, you might bring attention to yourself, especially if you have a criminal record and don't have a license for those guns. In fact, this kid had previous convictions for grand theft, burglary, and being a felon in possession of a firearm. Then there were all the recent robberies in the area where he lived. So after seeing his Instagram page, the cops paid him a visit. They found stolen electronic goods, stolen guns, stolen jewelry, and $250,000 in cash. It said this man had committed up to 40 burglaries where he lived. He later amassed 142 charges. When cops asked him what his job was, he replied, "Thief." At least he was honest. That one was hardly a difficult crime to solve, but this one was even easier, thanks to teens who risked everything to get some attention online. It was hardly the crime of the century. Two young guys went on a rampage and vandalized just about everything in sight, from a school to cars to a nearby restaurant. They even walked up to people eating at restaurants and blasted them with a stolen fire extinguisher. They ran around jumping on cars and just being a nuisance. Everything they did, they posted on Snapchat, and the videos were seen by the public. Let's just say they didn't get away with their crimes for long. Both were charged with 5 felonies and 4 misdemeanors. Okay, back to more serious crimes. This one involves some hateful folks getting brought down by clever people on Twitter. In 2014, 2 men in their 20s in Philadelphia were walking down the street when some guys started insulting them about their sexuality. The insults then turned to fists, and the 2 men were severely beaten. One so badly his jaw had to be wired. Police decided to release the surveillance video online, after which a lot of disgusted people took to Twitter. They started sharing photos of that night and discussing timelines. This led to the Twitter sleuths believing they had the men in a photo at a restaurant close to where the beating happened. They got in touch with the police. The guy that posted the photo said he got it from a friend of a friend of a friend. It just so happened that he had thousands of followers, and between them, they had many thousand more. As one person put it, this exploded the internet. Someone then used something called a Facebook graph search to see who had been checked into that restaurant around the time of the photo. This led to some names being mentioned. They sent their information to the Philadelphia Police Department. Soon after, local news media tweeted suspects in gay couple bashing attack in court today. 3 people were charged with aggravated assault, simple assault, and recklessly endangering another person. This next one deserves its own movie. In 2001, a retired trucker named Ronald Telfer pulled into a truck stop in Missouri. He saw what looked like an abandoned bucket and thought nothing of it. The next time he was back there, the bucket was in the same place. He kinda needed a bucket, so he went over to it. It was full of concrete, so he hit the bucket against a wall. At that moment, he smelled something awful. On inspection, it looked like inside the bucket there was meat and skin, albeit rotten. He thought it must be from a dead animal. So he just emptied it and took it home for use of feeding his pigs. About a month later, a guy named Franklin Ray Dean was at the truck stop when he noticed what looked like a concrete cylinder. Only when he got close, he saw hair coming out of it. The police were called. They had a dead man on their hands, and it was likely a murder case. Sometime later, a woman named Ellen Leach saw an image online that was a representation of the skull that had been found. She was a web sleuth and a very good one, but a skull wasn't much to go on. It wasn't for police either, who had no luck with their investigation. Leach then spent day and night looking at the websites of medical examiners and police departments. She spent months and months looking at the images of the skull, tried to imagine what the man might have looked like. This is a long and complicated story, but let's say one day she saw a picture of a missing person named Gregory May. He was exactly what she'd been looking for. Thanks to her hard work, a man named Douglas DeBruin, the best friend of the victim, was charged with murder and sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. It turned out he killed his friend to get a hold of his valuable collection of Civil War memorabilia. Okay, now for the grisliest story of all. We're going to condense this story just in case you already know about it, but we feel we couldn't do this show and completely leave it out. In short, in 2010, a video appeared online of someone doing something unimaginable to some cute kittens. A Facebook group was started in an attempt to find the culprit. He couldn't be seen, of course, but when someone posts a video, there are usually lots of clues in the background. He posted 3 similar revolting videos in total, and each was scrutinized frame by frame. The group looked at plug sockets, they talked in detail about his cigarettes, they found the kind of blanket he had on eBay, and they came together quite brilliantly to find out what vacuum cleaner he had and where to buy one. They then used all the information and cross-referenced it with other data to come up with a name. The sleuths used the footage to eventually track down a man named Luca Magnotta, a pathological attention seeker who very likely had a bunch of personality disorders. Police were handed the information and started an inquiry into his animal cruelty. But worse, way worse, was what he would be convicted of. Like many deranged killers, he went from killing animals to humans. In 2012, he posted a video online of himself doing just that with an ice pick. Police soon realized it was the real thing. Just a few days later, they turned up at a bloodstained apartment in Montreal and read these words inside his closet: "If you don't like the reflection, don't look in the mirror." The victim, a university student, was found in several parts. Magnotta was eventually apprehended in Germany and then sent back to Canada. He was sentenced to life with no possibility of parole for 25 years. Now you need to watch Horrifying Unsolved Internet Mysteries, or have a look at this.